Hello, welcome back to Good Vibes Live. I'm your only host today. The My name is Liam Marr. It's a pleasure to be your host today. Normally, the show is myself with my good friend, compadre, co-patriot, Mike Carmody, but unfortunately, he has, and I quote, contracted the COVID-19 virus. I don't know if you've heard of it, while at an orgy of anti-maskers. Maskers is the full quote. I misspoke there. I don't know if that's the case or not. I do know my good friend, Mike. He is in Colorado, which is with a lot of the Western states, is currently burning to the ground because for some reason we've angered God enough for him to want to punish us with the natural elements. And if, I was up there with him, I'd kind of see where he was coming from about some things. I just kind of wish he was, more selective about who he punished. Now, we haven't done an episode like this before, where it's just one person talking. It's more of an experiment, and we haven't put out an episode in a little while, so we wanted to do something, for the hundreds of thousands of listeners that we do have. I know our viewership on YouTube is about half that. And I want to take a second to bring attention to a few things, do a little bit of housekeeping, I guess. We are now back on Spotify. The deal has gone through. Our deal, the leftover money Spotify had from Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan deal, and it's going to us, which is great. What we're going to do with it, not sure. Probably only nefarious things, and no, I'd say a fair amount of nefarious things, some partying, and then some, we definitely put the rest of it to some good causes. I think it's important to, spread the love. If I ever were to come across a big amount of money like that, I'm trying to do some good with it, so people remember me for something. That's all any of us want. What I'm going to do today, a bit different than, again, the most normal episodes, is some segments. Mike and I have been talking about maybe doing something like this with the show to, give you something to look forward to besides our impeccable banter and camaraderie. So I guess here's what I want to start off with: a bit of philosophical questions. This is from the website Allocation. Okay, philosophical questions about happiness. This is Good Vibes Live. It's all about being positive and optimistic. So I figured this would be a pretty good article to, give some attention to. All right. And for anyone watching, my glasses, right? There's a light above the screen. Below right here, if you look closely, that's my reflection. But if you look above, that's actually the lighting I'm using, adding some experimentation to maybe add production value. Because I think that's really what this show was missing, some good lighting. Honestly, I think we have everything covered but the lighting. I think if we were a professional show, more so that right now, Good Vibes Live, it's in the punk rock aesthetic phase, right? Like this is our first album. Okay, we're recording it in, I don't know, our uncle's garage or something. A bunch of the buddies are getting around. There's a lot of acoustic stuff, some drums, some solid bass. It's exciting because in the music you can hear, that this is what they can do right now. It's honest, it's raw, it's personal. That's where we're at. That's what Good Vibes Lives is at right now. This is the first season in the earliest iteration of what we are. The sky is the limit. So let's start. Philosophical questions about happiness. What is the meaning of a good life? Wow, that's a heavy one. In my opinion, the meaning of a good life is to find something or someone that makes you not want it to end. Whether it's, a relationship with someone that you can't imagine living without, maybe it's finding that person and creating an even better person with them and seeing them grow up and accomplish things that you could have only dreamed of. Or a passion that you pursue that, whether it's artistry, music, comedy, and just going at it, alienating all friends and family in your relentless pursuits of perfection and the standard that only you hold yourself to. I think if you're able to do one of those things, you've accomplished, I would qualify that as a good life and something that, at the end of it, you could look back on and be like, nice. Hopefully you're afforded that opportunity and not taken out by some douchebag trying to switch the song on their Spotify while they're going 60 on I-90. That's some local humor for the fans. Next question. Is it more important to be respected or liked? That's a great question. For me, you can respect the boss, right? Because you have to, but that doesn't mean you have to like them. Now, what's more valuable? In a personality thing, right? A person-to-person interaction, I guess. I would say it's more important to be liked for me than it is to be respected. I just assume everyone respects me. What's not to respect? Next question. Have we become less happy in this age of technology? Yes. I read a book. I read 30 pages of a 130-page book called Tribe by Sebastian Junger. He wrote The Perfect Storm, which I believe was adapted into a movie starring George Clooney and Mark Wahlberg in the year 2003. That was what his most famous piece of work was. This book, however, it kind of reads like a long article, like a journalistic article, and that's what Sebastian Junger is. He's a journalist primarily. He's seen conflict zones, he's seen wars, the worst humanity has to offer. And Tribe is a collection of personal anecdotes and lessons that he's learned from traveling the world and experiencing these things. An interesting, I wouldn't maybe necessarily call it the thesis of the book, but an important element of the book is a statistic which I'm gonna try my best to not butcher right now, which equates to as luxury, comfortability, availability of food and resources goes up, as culture and societies expand, and more opportunities essentially are given to individuals in a society. So an affluent society, as a society becomes more affluent, their rates of depression increase, their suicide rates increase almost, in a very similar pattern. So the question is, have we become less happy in this age of technology? Listen, 100 years ago, no one gave a shit how many people didn't like your amazing tweets that you would put out regularly, right? It wouldn't get to them. It wouldn't keep them up at night, okay? That's just not how it worked. They had other things to worry about, like cholera, which would make me pretty unhappy too, obviously. That's cholera doesn't make people happy. But, you know, tribe, right? To bring it back to the book, tribe. They find that groups of people, I believe it's up to 100, like 50 or so, when people are codependent in a culture, you know, for instance, if I were a farmer, right, I'm supplying a certain amount of food to the greater cause, to the people, okay? I feel like I have a purpose. I feel like I'm valued, okay? Those people traditionally, statistically, are happier. You know, when you give someone a purpose and they feel like they're doing genuine good, okay, they have less of a reason to be depressed or to be unhappy. So in my opinion, in the age of technology where constantly you're seeing instances of people being, you know, on the individual basis, their importance is being taken away. You know, there's factory farming, there's automation technology. People's needs and purposes are being taken away. And unfortunately, it kind of relates, you can relate it to what's going on with COVID right now and how people are, you know, dealing with that. You know, you see suicide rates are up, you see crime is up. You know, it comes down to, you know, for a lot of, you know, not to directly compare, but a lot of people are unhappy with the way things are going. A lot of people are out of jobs, they're out of work, their businesses have shut down to no fault of their own, right? You know, it doesn't take much to realize we were maybe in a better place just 6 months ago, just as far as a society. But definitely happier for sure, I'd say, across the board. You know, there was still a lot wrong, but there wasn't a pandemic, there wasn't an economy just steadily heading off a cliff that we could so obviously see anyway. So as far as have we become less happy in the age of technology, I would say, yeah, definitely. There's a great quote, don't remember who said it, should have just said it was me, but that human beings are the sex organs for the robotic age or something like that. Essentially, human beings, evolutionarily speaking, just exist to create the next species that would become dominant. Technology's bad, is what I'm saying. You know, I know you're listening or viewing this podcast, and it wouldn't be possible for someone like me to do something like this 100 years ago. My voice would just be, you know, probably, you know, worthless, a little bit less than it is now. But I'm afforded the opportunity to do that now with the age of technology. Technology makes people depressed and sad. Look at social media, okay? Just in general. I mentioned it earlier about tweets and stuff, but why the hell do I have to compare myself to fucking Jimmy from 8th grade who's now been accepted to Harvard Law School? I could have just not known that information. I could have just not known that about that guy. For all I know, Jimmy could be miserable. He could have been just a miserable person. But now I know he's going to Harvard Law School. You know what I'm not doing? I'm not going to Harvard Law School, okay? Now I have to compare myself to Jimmy? Oh, fuck you, Jimmy. Fuck you and Harvard Law School. And I don't mean that. Harvard Law School did nothing wrong. I love Harvard. I think it's Goodwill Hunting, right? Pretty sure that happens there. I'm going to move on to the next question. I think I've drained all the comedy out of that one. Are human beings obligated to better themselves? And will that make them happier? Are human beings obligated to better themselves? Human beings aren't obligated. I say in a perfect world, human beings shouldn't be obligated to do anything. But I think you should feel obligated to better yourself for the sake of giving yourself a better life. I think that you should do, if you're not bettering yourself, what are you doing with your time here? Are you wasting it? Are you, are you working a job that you hate? Did you go to college because your parents made you go? And now you have to get a job that you hate? You're going to work it for 20 years? You're going to work it probably like 50 years? The way things are. Maybe you don't take vitamins. Maybe you have a bad heart, bad genetics. Maybe you're done at 45. But you work it your whole life and you hate it. All you did was make someone else money. Is that living? I guess it's living, but is it living a life, Next question. Is having a big ego a negative trait or a positive trait? I think people probably look at me and they're just like, wow, look at that handsome man. Look at that George Clooney, Johnny Depp looking son of a bitch. He's great. Lovely. He's lovely. He must be lovely. Right? That's what I think. Do I have an ego? Yes, I'm a stand-up comedian. I'd say I have an ego, but I think my ego gets checked regularly. I think that's important. I think it's very important for people's egos to get checked. I don't think I'm like the man, I think I'm just fine. I think I'm like less than fine. I think I suck most of the time. So I try to be better. I try to better myself. And I think trying to better myself, going out and doing things that I feel good about doing, gives me reasons, okay, stand up, for instance, right? When I first started, I'm like, yeah, I think I'm a sort of funny guy. I think most people that do comedy at least have some inclination that like someone told them at one point in their life that they were funny, all right, that they were very funny, or at least they thought they could be if they put time in. In my personal opinion, I think anyone can do stand-up comedy. I know people are afraid of public speaking, but you know what gets you over public speaking real quick? Making people laugh, because everyone loves making people laugh, okay? So that whole fear of public speaking goes away real quick when you just get a couple of decent jokes in. Now, ego can form, around someone who thinks that they're good at something, right? So if I was getting good at comedy, which I was, everyone thinks so. It's the biggest tragedy of COVID is my stand-up career being put on hold, people say. But, you can form an ego, and so long as your ego, I think if you can keep an ego in check, it's a very valuable asset because it can lead to confidence, and confidence is what separates a lot of people. So long as confidence doesn't devolve into arrogance, then you're on the right track. I think a big ego, which is what the question is, having a big ego, I would say a big ego is a positive trait if it's earned and you can back it up. But if you're just an arrogant son of a bitch, I would definitely qualify it as a negative trait. All right, last question. Is the most important purpose in life to find happiness? No. I think I'm gonna defer to an earlier point I made. I think the most important purpose in life is to find something. Is to find your purpose in life. Okay, that was good. That was tight. That was good. Now I'm gonna move on to some headlines, some local news, not local, national news. And I should start off with something that just happened. I got my notes right here. The second female Supreme Court member, Ruth Bader, I'm going to get her last name correct out of respect. I'm stalling now. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing So great. I hope your day is fantastic, and it's only getting better as I search for the name of the late Supreme Court Justice. I know it's Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Rest in peace. She passed away at the age of 87 to pancreatic cancer. I know this is a Good Vibes Live. And why am I talking about pancreatic cancer and someone who's died? I'm just talking about interesting news and tidbits that have come around. Now, when a Supreme Court justice, I don't know if this is a little bit of, history about the United States and our Supreme Court justice system works. There are 9 Supreme Court justices, and when you are nominated as a Supreme Court justice and approved and sent in, you are then in that position for life. So it's a very big responsibility whenever an opening for a Supreme Court justice comes up. During the Trump administration, Trump has nominated 2 Supreme Court justices. They are Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh. I know you remember Brett Kavanaugh. He liked beer, right? An interesting opportunity now presents itself, and this election is obviously incredibly important, but now it's important for an even another reason. Say Trump were to win, he would then have nominated three different Supreme Court justices for life, meaning that his legacy as a president would live on for the rest of their lives, which is interesting because the reasons and various things that they stand for. It's just, it's a third of the Supreme Court members, and it's a significant amount of influence that Trump will have had on American politics for years to come. That's a pretty interesting headline, I think. I just think it's worth noting. Is it funny at all? No. Rest in peace to Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I'm going to move on. This next question, this next article came from the World Meteorological Organization, which has not enough to do with meteors, if you ask me. This is actually, the article itself originates from NPR, but they cited that organization, okay? So, in 2020, you guys know hurricanes, right? You've heard of hurricanes before, and the naming of hurricanes. Like, ever thought about where did they come from? How do they pick? Well, essentially what they do is every year they start over with the alphabet, and as a storm emerges, they go, from A, they use 21 potential names, okay? In the sense that they only use 21 letters. The letters that they don't use are Q, U, X, Y, and Z, which I kind of think is a little silly, because like you could do Hurricane Quinn. That'd be a good one. You guys know a Quinn? Ever met a Quinn before? They're intimidating sometimes. Hurricane Ulysses. That's serious. Like, that hurricane has opinions. Hurricane Xavier. I don't know about that one. I'd just think that's like a cool hurricane, probably Hurricane Xavier. Hurricane Y. What's the name for Hurricane Y? Hurricane. I was crushing this until now. I thought, honestly, I was really knocking this out of the park as a bit. We're gonna go. I'm gonna look up. No, that's cheating. Y. What are the names with a Y? I know Yennefer. Hurricane Yennefer from the popular video game and book series The Witcher. Hurricane Yennefer. I'd use Hurricane Yennefer as a name. And then as Z, Mm. Hurricane Sarah with a Z. That's what I would do. Now, hurricane, there have been 21 hurricanes, the last one being Hurricane Wilfred, already in 2020. So now they're using a different naming convention, okay? Because they couldn't just start over. Why would they do that? That doesn't make any sense. Does that make sense to you? It's impossible, okay? So now they're using the Greek alphabet, okay? With their naming conventions. So the Hurricane Alpha has just began to form off the coast of Portugal. I find, a best of luck, I say, to anyone who could be affected by Hurricane Alpha. But I think it brings up, it ties into the theme that 2020 is a pretty wild ride. Even, there's the obvious things going on that everyone's aware of, but I bet not everyone's aware of the fact that we've actually run out of names of hurricanes and we've had to go to the Greek alphabet. The Greeks are great, right? They invented democracy and perfected sexuality. So, maybe these new hurricanes are, we'll see. Are they going to be deadlier than our, English language naming convention for hurricanes? Or softer? What's going to be the difference? It'll be an interesting thing to check. Keep an eye on that. Next headline here. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi gets a blowout. Democrats, the thing about Democrats, right, is they hate winning. They really do. They fucking hate it. Anything that they can do to prevent themselves from, winning what should be a layup election, they'll do. Now I'm obviously referring to Nancy Pelosi goes and gets a haircut in San Francisco. She's been a staunch advocate for keeping businesses like hair salons closed, which has been keeping people out of work and making them unable to earn a living. Again, at no fault of their own, this virus has been, keeping that from happening. Now, Nancy Pelosi, who I believe I saw today is worth like $120 million. That's off of like a memory thing I saw today, and I didn't fact check it. She's worth a lot of money though. But Nancy Pelosi, she goes in to this hairdresser, which is supposed to be closed, and she gets a private hair job done. She gets her hair done, and they record her on camera in there using their security cameras. The owner of the salon, I believe, she was upset when Nancy Pelosi utilized her place of work for her personal hairdressing when normal people are unable to do the same thing, which hurts her business. So, Nancy Pelosi, right? She also does not wear a mask the whole time. She makes, everyone else there wears a mask, but she doesn't. She doesn't, because why would she do that? She's just, creating the virus and making it sound like it's worse than it is. Allegedly, I don't know. It's bad. People are dying, almost 200,000 now. So that's all very real. My point is the hypocrisy is just outrageous. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. But I think if you were earnestly either today, you're just like going into this with blind spots, It's like, okay, it's a matter of, like, this election is not a matter of, the lesser of two evils. It's the, okay, what am I guess it is still the lesser of two evils, but it's like really coming down to how bad is the other person, right? Who would I want my daughter to hang out with the most, okay, for a long extended period of time? Meanwhile, both sides just continue to shoot themselves in the foot. Biden's policy, obviously, is just to not talk because he's not good at that for very long. Trump's policy is to just keep talking, and that gets him in trouble enough to make the Democrats look good. So, I don't know. Nancy Pelosi getting a haircut done, I respect it as a power move. It feels very Game of Thronesian. It's like it's, rules for thee, but not for me, right? It's very Queen Regent, like it's a boss move, but it's not really something I guess I want to see in the government that leads me. I think there's some problems with that for sure. Okay, next headline here we got. This is from that was from CNN. This next article is from Fox News. See, I'm giving you the spectrum here, baby doll. That's what I always say. Fox News. Trump, this is Donald, vows enough COVID vaccine doses for every American by April 2021. And, quote, at least 100 million by the end of the year. Distribution would begin within 24 hours of approval. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I love a good vaccine. Give it to me. HPV, polio, the works. I will take as many vaccines as I possibly can. I think everyone should, but I want other people to have taken the vaccines before I put them in my body. And I want to be able to see if there's any inverse side effects of these vaccines. There have been, we can't pretend like there hasn't been negative effects of vaccines being rushed to market. And that's really what worries me the most is we're rushing, there's a great imperative to making this vaccine, especially Trump's looking to make it before he's potentially out of office. It would be seen as a victory for him, I think, is what he's looking at. My worry is, we're rushing something to market. It won't necessarily have been tested properly, and then there'll be some inverse side effect. But is that inverse side effect worse than what's going on currently? I don't know, and it'll be something to keep an eye out for in the coming months to years. I think it's also worth mentioning Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is the chief virologist at the infectious something. He's really important. You see him on the news. It's like the Center for like infectious diseases in the United States. I think he's a really smart guy, bright guy. Love hearing him talk. Fauci says, and I quote, "I would put my money on a vaccine for November or December." So, you got him and Trump pointing towards there maybe being something by the end of this year. I think, this is Good Vibes Live. I like to bring some good positive energy, positive vibes to the podcast when I can. So maybe that is good news. Fingers crossed. Okay, so I'm from Massachusetts. We recently just had an election between Ted Kennedy and Ed Markey for let me get the exact office right, because I haven't thought about it in a few weeks, and I know it's senator, but for the House, okay, so it's all right. So I knew it was a senator. It's a senator from Massachusetts for the U.S. House of Representatives. Ed Markey was victorious, which means Ted Kennedy, a descendant of the Kennedy clan, was the first Kennedy to have lost an election in Massachusetts state history. Whew. Amazing. Times are a-changing. I love talking with the Kennedys. I feel like they were, there have been a number of great political families in U.S. history. The Kennedys are obviously some of the most prolific, starting with not Joseph Kennedy, starting with, I think it was starting with John Kennedy. Man, where are my notes here? Well, I know it was John Kennedy. This is good. This is great radio right here. I'm going through all these notes on my bed. All these notes of Rosemary Kennedy. Here we go. I believe these two were stuck together, which would explain that. Yes. Okay. So you obviously have. Let's bring up the family tree here. Let's bring up the family tree of the Kennedys because it'll help make sense. Now, the first of importance was Joseph Kennedy, who became the first. Now he's kind of the father of the generation of Kennedys that included John, Bobby, Ted, Sarah, I believe more even. But Kennedy became the first Irish American ambassador to Britain, serving in that position until 1940. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with European history of the 1930s to the 1940s, but it was volatile. A lot of changes being made, a lot of things going on, a lot of people doing stuff, doing things. Joseph Kennedy is on the record to have said in conversation with the British Jewish activist Neville Lasky that the appeasement of Hitler, this is Adolf Hitler, was a positive thing to aspire to, as it would intensify economic ties between the two sides and act as a barrier to war, referring to obviously the war that was breaking out across Europe, with Germany invading multiple countries across the continent. Kennedy blamed the Jewish people for the German problem and the crashing economy of the 1930s. And he is reported to have said that the lives of the Jews in Central Europe were not worth all the agitation that would occur if the U.S. were to get involved in combat Adolf Hitler. So he essentially, as an ambassador, was arguing the importance of remaining in close relations with Adolf Hitler, probably because he saw that the expansionary efforts that Hitler was having and saw a possible economic benefit of remaining allies, right? When FDR was brought into office, he actually removed Joseph Kennedy from power. At that point, Joseph Kennedy vowed to have his son be president. Now let's talk about the next generation of kids. You got Joseph Kennedy Jr., who died as a pilot in World War II. I believe it was in Germany. So he wasn't able to, fulfill the prophecy that the anti-Semitic father had foretold. Then you had John F. Kennedy, who became president until 1963, when he was assassinated allegedly by Lee Harvey Oswald in Dallas. Now, funny thing about the Kennedy assassination, right? Lyndon B. Johnson was the vice president. He was a Southern Democrat from the state of Texas, okay? Which was good because JFK was a senator from Massachusetts, and that kind of, a Massachusetts senator teaming up with the Texas senator gave them, a broad range of viability, I guess, right? So LBJ, he, mere moments after Kennedy is shot to death, they're on the tarmac in Dallas, bodies in a casket. LBJ was the second in command, now is the first in command. He demands that before the plane takes off, that he is sworn into office. So what he does is he makes a call on the plane to, I believe it is Bobby Kennedy. I want to double check that. Just, fact checking here. Okay, so yeah, Bobby, or Robert, all these Kennedys have multiple names, but Robert F. Kennedy, he was serving as Attorney General under JFK. So LBJ is on the airplane, JFK's body slowly decomposing in the adjacent part of the plane. LBJ is like, I need to be named president, okay? So what he does is he calls up the Attorney General, the brother of JFK, who had just found out his brother had been shot to death in Dallas. He calls him and says, I need you to swear me in as president. Initially, RFK says, fuck you, hangs up the phone. LBJ calls back, makes him swear him in. And LBJ is such a psychopath that he brings Jackie Kennedy, the recently traumatized wife of JFK, and they take a photo together in the plane. LBJ makes an intern go grab a Bible so they can do the ceremony appropriately. They both have their hands on the Bible. The photo is a great piece of American history, as it just shows the type of person LBJ is. You got Jackie Kennedy just looking completely traumatized in the photo, and LBJ just like, oh yeah, I'm the leader now. A couple of things about LBJ, right? While president, there's the Vietnam War, but why even talk about that? Let's talk about him as a person. His first day in office, the secretary at the White House at the time is a local librarian that JFK grew up with. She's an older lady now, and John F. Kennedy was very fond of her. LBJ is like, get the fuck out. She loses her job. He brings in some, younger, more attractive secretary, I'm assuming. Feel free to fact check me on that. But LBJ used to make interns take notes while he was shitting. He would make them come into the bathroom, and he'd be, demanding or saying things, making policy while, having bowel movements. It was probably pretty bad, in diplomatic meetings, he would be known to unzip his trousers in front of foreign diplomats and remove his member, his penis, and use it as an intimidation technique. He referred to it as jumbo. Now, I haven't seen any photos, but I believe I've read some anecdotal reports that it was quite substantial. There's some great audio out there of LBJ ordering pants, having them specially made. I'd include the audio, but I don't know how to. Google LBJ special pants making. It's good. It's a good hearty laugh. Not as good as the content you're getting right here, but it's pretty solid. And LBJ, he was that type of. He's quoted to have said, right? Why, when asked why they were still in the Vietnam War, I believe this would be in 1968 is when this happened. Ooh. Hold on, we got some breaking news, everybody. Mitch McConnell says Trump's Supreme Court nominee will receive a vote on the floor of the United States Senate. Oh boy, that is going to be a fun one to watch. But back to LBJ, right? LBJ, he is a fun guy, probably. Calls his wife Lady Bird in the public. But yeah, when questioned as to why they were still in the Vietnam War, he took his dick out and said, this is why. Tons of, up to, I think, 68,000 Americans died in that war. A lot more Vietnamese died in that war because of LBJ's dick. Anyway, back to the Kennedys. You got Bobby Kennedy, the Attorney General. He is murdered on June 5th, 1968, after he is selected to be the Democratic frontrunner in the 1968 presidential election after LBJ. He is killed in a hotel in California from a 17-year-old busboy. Interesting stuff. And then, of course, Rosemary Kennedy. Rosemary Kennedy. This is a sad one, guys. Not a lot of people know about Rosemary Kennedy. You know, the other ones, you may have heard of them, but Rosemary Kennedy, she was prone to violent mood swings as a youth. And at the age of 23, the father, Kennedy, had her incapacitated via frontal lobotomy. Justification was because he was worried that she would reflect negatively on the Kennedy name because of her violent mood swings, and maybe perhaps she had a chemical imbalance in her brain, or maybe there was something more going on. But Father Kennedy decided, no, not this family. So why does God keep punishing the Kennedys? I don't know. I can't think of any reason. Can you? I know another Kennedy actually passed away this year. She was. Let's look this up. Kennedy drowns, Massachusetts, 2020. That should bring it up. Okay, so we're looking at Maeve Kennedy McKean. She's the granddaughter of assassinated presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy. Has been found in Maryland. The 40-year-old and her 8-year-old son were last seen on Thursday evening riding in the canoe off Chesapeake Bay. Maryland? What? On April 2nd, 2020, McKean and her 8-year-old son, Gideon Joseph Kennedy, they went missing while paddling in a canoe near McKean's mother's waterfront residence in Shadyside, Maryland. McKean had taken her family to Maryland to stay in quarantine during the COVID-19 pandemic. And unfortunately, they went out to sea and passed away and died. So yeah, a lot of bad stuff in the Kennedy name. In my opinion, though, another Kennedy having lost an election is not a bad thing. You know, they've been in the politics for so long, they're not gonna fix it this time, you know. A lot of evil in the family, you know. They're the type of, first of all, it starts with the anti-Semitism and it goes down, just further down. Obviously, there's Chappaquiddick. I can't believe I almost didn't talk about this. Let's bring up Chappaquiddick here. Chappaquiddick. I want to get all the facts right here. I know the story, but so we're looking at Chappaquiddick, all right? On July 18th, 1968, Senator Ted Kennedy drove his car off a bridge on the Massachusetts Chappaquiddick Island. The accident resulted in the death of passenger Mary Jo Capesci, a 28-year-old campaign strategist who worked for the Kennedys. The ongoing investigation, okay, so that's what happened, but here's how it happened. They were at a party on Chappaquiddick Island. Ted Kennedy had some booze, you know, a few. He was partying, right, enjoying himself, being a Kennedy as you do. And he just starts driving. He's got Mary Jo in the passenger seat. They drive off a bridge. Ted Kennedy heroically climbs out of the car and swims to the surface, leaving Mary Jo in the car. Mary Jo is trapped in the car. Ted Kennedy allegedly goes back down, tries to help, but is unable to. He surfaces, and then he goes, and I believe he gets 2 local workers on the island to come and help him. The 3 of them are unable to rescue Mary Jo from the island, or from the car. So the 2 men that Ted Kennedy enlisted suggest, okay, you got to tell the police about this. And Ted Kennedy says he does, or he will. So what Ted Kennedy does is he gets in the water, swims 2 miles through the the water, treacherous water, to get to the other part of the island where he was staying in a hotel. He gets into his hotel around 3 a.m. in the morning. He goes up to the clerk, the doorman, or not doorman, but the front worker at the hotel, and he says, "Did you hear that noise? I've just been woken up to a noise." See, he creates an alibi as if Ted Kennedy hadn't been drunk driving and hadn't left a woman in the car, right? So Mary Jo, unfortunately, is still trapped. The next day, Ted Kennedy wakes up to an angry phone call from one of the men that he had enlisted the help of the night before. They ask him if he told the police. He says no. They are infuriated with him. They call the police then at that point, and then they pull the car from the water. And Mary Jo, during her autopsy, she unfortunately is deceased at this time. During the autopsy, they find out that she did not die of drowning, but in fact suffocation, meaning that for hours she could have been in that car. They could have saved her, but Ted Kennedy decided he was too tired. He then remained a Massachusetts state senator for 50 years and was almost president. That scandal right there did significantly hurt his chances at becoming president. But he still remained a Massachusetts state senator for almost 50 years. I think he passed away in 2009. So there's a lot of evil in that family, right? Sorry, this has just kind of become a history lesson, but this stuff interests me. Let's see if there's any other headlines I think worth listening or worth talking about. Okay, here we got one more. This is from ABC News. Firefighter dies battling wildfire sparked by gender reveal party. Still don't know if it was a boy or a girl. Obviously, respect, thoughts, prayers, all of it to the firefighter. Terrible that he's dead or she's dead now because someone had to, make something out of nothing. Like, you already created a person. Congrats. No one gives a fuck. Here's the thing about gender reveal parties, okay? They're stupid as shit. They're a waste of time, and only something. People feel the need. Like, I don't care. I do not care. I do not care what gender your kid is at all. I care if that kid is a good person, maybe. But I don't even like you that much, right? Like, if someone ever invites me to a gender reveal party, I'm going to go to take notes to then shit on it later on stage, okay? That is this most stupid, self-obsessed thing ever. It's like when you see a bunch of guys do like an Instagram photo shoot with the boys and shit. They're all like propped up and stuff. They get professional. It's just so self-indulgent. Maybe it's just because I don't operate that way, and I know, I'm not a normal person per se, but it's just like, oh, pay attention to me. I need attention. It's like a cat or an animal that you have to feed, with attention some way or another. Like, it's just not enough. The likes aren't enough. The attention that they get on a day-to-day basis isn't enough. So now we got to go use pyrotechnics in the woods to reveal if it's a boy or a girl. How about you show me a kid that like it can contribute to society in a meaningful way. Show me a kid that can play the piano. Show me a kid that can play the guitar. Show me a kid that's funny. Show me a kid that can play fucking basketball. I don't know. But don't show me that it's a boy or a girl. Okay? I was in a wildfire once in California 2 years ago in Yosemite National Park. I've talked about it on the podcast before. I talk about like the same three things. I got some funny anecdotes about it. When the fire was really out of control, it's coming into the valley. Never really made it into the valley, but the smoke was coming into the valley of Yosemite National Park where I worked. There was a lot of concern. It was weird. It felt similar to COVID in that, you know, half the people were really scared of it and worried, you know, going into work. You know, the smoke inhalation, the dangers, you know, the fact that there were only 3 exits and one of them had already been destroyed of the fire. And the fire overnight, due to the wind, had jumped, I think it was like 10,000 feet, or it spread 10,000, a very sharp distance. So if it had taken out another exit, you know, then there'd be one exit and everyone trying to leave the park. And then if the fire got even bigger, it would be a massacre. Fortunately, that did not happen. But a lot of people at the time were worried about that. And then there was another group of people that were downplaying the dangers of everything. And I feel like this is what happens when people get involved in chaotic situations. I've only been in a few, thank God. But you know, they're the people that are like, yeah, it's nothing. This is a do nothing. This is much to do about nothing. I don't care. You know, the anti-maskers, if you will. I wear a mask on a podcast. All right. Is it because I'm trying to promote a brand? Yeah. Yes. But I'm keeping other people safe at the same time. There's no one else in this room. Anyway, I had a manager while I was working there. I was a retail team lead at a village store. And I thought I was okay at the job. Maybe I wasn't. I had a lot of fun. I wasn't fired for my time out there, and I learned a lot. My manager comes in one day, post-fire, or during the fire. He's like, "Great news, everybody. The fire is 5% contained," which apparently was great news. Didn't really make a lot of sense to me why he was so enthusiastic about it. But it was at that point that I decided I should probably leave the park. One funny little anecdote I have about the fire was one time I was walking through the park. I was listening to Childish Gambino's Feels Like Summer, which was actually the song recommendation by our last guest, Kennedy Adu. I remember this German family of tourists. Now, there is a layer of smoke throughout the valley. It is dense, it is thick, but a lot of people are like, this is my family vacation. This is what we're doing. I'm doing this no matter what. So they're still coming into the park. And the company I work for is like, hell, if there are people coming, you're going to be working. I remember seeing this German family of tourists. I know they were German because I took a few years of German in middle school. So I could understand like a little bit of what they were saying. And there was this bear that had come down from the mountains and it had just been inhaling smoke all day, right? Probably at a higher altitude, and it had now come down. It was looking like it was on the way of dying. It was exasperating. You could tell it was like almost on its stomach. It looked very tired and weak. And this German family was having their kids like get as close to it as possible for a photo. I was just listening to Childish Gambino's Feels Like Summer, and I was watching the whole thing go down, and it was like, wow. So when COVID started happening and I saw people handling it in different ways, I just want to say nothing really surprises me because I know what people are capable in crises. Listen, this has been a solo episode of Good Vibes Live. I hope it wasn't completely miserable. I talked a lot about it. Talked a lot about stuff and things. You know, I don't got any shows to promote because I stay at home. My life right now is it's just day in and day out looking for jobs that I can do remotely. You know, just finished college. I found out I think I have to actually apply for graduation, which is stupid as hell. It's stupid as hell. It's very fucking dumb. I'm not a fan of it. But you know, best years of your life, everybody. I don't know if I would go to college. That's my official stance. I did, but you know, you might get unlucky, graduate into a job market that sucks, and yeah, might, you know, because of a pandemic, it might happen. Could happen. It's happening right now. All right, songs of the week, everybody. We're at our favorite segment, most positive songs of the week. Where do I want to go with this? All right. how there's just so many options, so many single options for songs of positivity, right? Oh boy. I got, I don't want to use an artist that has been selected before, and we've now done a few songs at this point. Let's do. See, I listen to like two different musicians, so it's hard. It's hard for me to find something unique, right? Um, yeah, okay. I want to throw on Danny Brown, Grown Up. Mike, what do this is at this point, Mike would throw in a song, but as we said, I hope he's not in danger. Mike's a great guy. I know he's never going to hear this, but I believe in Mike more than he believes in himself. I think he's a very talented individual. You got to hear him freestyle. It's really impressive. He brings good energy. He's one of those people that I met, and I was like, I really get along with this kid. We had good rapport. I looked up to him in a way. He was a lot more confident than I was, and he makes me a better person being my friend and doing this podcast with me. I care about him. I hope all the best for him, and I hope we can stick to doing this show more regularly. I think what I want to do is maybe commit right now, not to a date. I'm gonna ask around, figure out what date we can commit to upload regularly. But whether it's a solo podcast with Mike or myself, both of us, or an interview, we're gonna start uploading on a weekly basis. That is the hope. I've been saying it for forever. We shall see. But at the very least, to anyone listening, watching at this point, I want to let you know, you matter. You're valuable. You can accomplish anything you set your mind to if you try. But you need to try, and you need to try hard. I love you. I love you more than you love yourself, and that's a problem. Take care. Have a great night, everybody. This has been Good Vibes Live, episode 11.